welcome back to my channel. For those of you that are new here, this is Evergreen Inks, and I'm Michaela. Today I just wanted to talk about something that a follower on Instagram asked me to make a video about, and that is what I consider when I decide to switch or pick between a TN versus a rings system. Yeah, and before we get started, I'm in a new place again. I have recently moved, we have recently moved, and I'm gonna again apologize for lighting because I'm still trying to figure out the situation and my tripod is not unpacked. So there's very limited places that I can set up my phone. So if something's hard to see or you want to better lighting on something, hopefully I can share it with you next time. Just let me know in the comments. Okay. These are, so this is a TN and then this is my rings. I chose for this video, both A6 sizes. So the page size for both of these systems is the same. The true A6 size, the paper size that you would see in the original Hobonichi Techo, in the Midori Hibino. My paper size is the same. And right off the bat that you can tell that these are not the same size. The covers themselves are not the same size because this cover has to also make room for rings, whatever size you're choosing. And also those rings are going to be to add weight. So this is bigger and also significantly heavier than this system. And depending on how much you stuff either of them, mine in this size or in this system is also incredibly thicker, as you can see. And some of this bulk is a TN insert, a cloth insert for pockets. So you can already see that one of the considerations that I have when I switch between systems is the weight, the size, and all of that jazz that goes into it. I didn't weigh these before coming on. That might have been a really good idea. I do know where my kitchen scale is, so maybe right after this video, I'll just put it right in the comments or the description box of how much each of these weigh right now. You can, of course, pick a lighter or heavier cover, that goes into it as well, but I feel like these leathers have a similar thickness, even though this is Gillio and this is hand-stitched leather tee. This one is so much lighter. I don't know if I would say a pound, but that's what it feels like. just holding them. Also, if it helps, I have two pouches. This is the pouch that I had been using for my A6 TN, and this is the pouch that I am using for my A6 rings. My planner doesn't fit in this one. It would, but my planner is so wide that my latch or my clasp catches when I try to shove it in here. So it's not an easy slip in, slip out situation that the TN would. So there's plenty of extra room in this one, of course, because this one's made not just for the A6 size. There's plenty of extra room. But yeah, I just wanted to show you in comparison. For the record, the shop that these are both from is JCreatives on Etsy. She is a friend of mine. I'm going to sing her praises. I love both of these covers, these pouches. She also did the pocket insert, the A6 insert, but with pockets and a zipper and everything in this. The way that she does it right now is she opens intermittently for whatever patterns that she has during a season, and then she takes orders and then closes her shop for a while, finishes those products, and then opens again. So I would, if you're interested, you should follow her Instagram. She's JCreatives __ on Instagram, I believe. I'll also tag her below. I think everything that I have of hers is amazing quality, and it's something that she's really passionate about. And I have a couple other products that I'll probably share at the end of the video, because that's not the point of this video. But yeah, anyway, I just wanted to show you, like, I can fit my A6 TN in here, and I cannot fit my A6 rings. Also, I do have a really chunky ring setup. I know that when I switch into this system, that is a consideration of mine. But also, as far as ring covers are concerned, this is probably one of the slimmest that you'll find. Like, the Gillio is pretty slim. This cover is made for 23mm inserts, 23mm rings. I've only had one cup of coffee today. And if you use something like Moterm or even VDS, if you don't customize the VDS, it'll come out significantly more. Like, it's the VDS and the Moterms are both thicker in like cover thickness and also wider and taller. So this footprint, as far as like ring covers are concerned, is probably the smallest you're gonna find. Okay. So that's my first consideration, is just size. Like, is that a factor when I, Michaela, am like moving between systems? Of course, there are like sizes of the planner and the paper, of course. You don't have to move between, or I don't have to move between just A6. If this was too big, I could move down to Pocket, which is what I was in earlier this year. And that would be significantly smaller than the A6 TN, of course. And I would probably say, actually, I don't know if that's true anymore. I was going to say that I think there are more options as far as sizes in the TN world, but some of those sizes are harder to access in terms of like the stuff. Shops that carry inserts in that size, covers, whatever. But I'm not necessarily sure if that's true. I don't know. I'd have to actually go compare those, because when I moved out of bullet journal, I moved into TN. Like, it was a very natural switch for me to move from like the original bullet journaling method, which is how I started in the planner community, to TN. And so when I was looking at all the sizes, like, there seemed like a lot of sizes. And then when I was moving from TN to rings, there felt like less sizes and more ways to customize like width of paper within a size, within like a cover size. But I don't necessarily know if that's true. So jury's still out on that one, at least in my opinion. But I would say that it is harder to, if you're going to pick a size in a TN versus an A6. If you're going to pick a size in a TN, I think it's quickly becoming untrue, but I think it's still true that it's probably harder to find materials to make a TN system work in any size versus a rings, because I think rings have always been more popular. Maybe not in the planner community itself, but in like the fringes of like people who use a planner but don't know that a planner community exists. Like, rings has always been more popular than a TN. That's an opinion. That's an opinion. But like Franklin Covey and Filofax, like, most people on the street would probably say, oh yeah, I know what that is. Maybe not to like the depth that like a planner person would know it, but they would recognize, and they would even call this like a Filofax system maybe, because they interchange rings with those names, but they wouldn't necessarily know what a TN is. I think traveler's notebooks are becoming more mainstream, but I still think rings is more popular as a whole, and therefore it's easier to find ring stuff on Amazon, for example, or Etsy or stuff like that, than maybe a specific size for TN. Of course, there are hard ring sizes to find, like A6, and I think I've discussed that in previous videos, but if you're trying to find like ease and comfort of purchasing inserts or covers or accessories, I feel like rings, it's easier to purchase stuff for it. In my opinion, it's also easier to make stuff for rings. I don't know if it's because in TN you have to like fold it over and consider like double, whether it's an insert that you're trying to make or a dashboard or like an insert with pockets. Like you can just pop something in rings and call it good. You have to think about the way that it lays on the string in a TN. So I feel like it's easier to DIY stuff for ring systems. But again, that's my opinion. This whole video is my opinion, by the way. I should say that in like bold, like before I even start. This entire video is my opinion. This is what I consider when moving into rings or TN. And I did have a few notes on this. I'm just gonna pull them open because, so if you want spoilers for the video, you can just like read this. Because I did make some notes because I'm like very scatterbrained at the moment. Okay, so it is easier to write in a TN than rings because in a TN, let's see if I can pull open a blank page. In a TN, you can go all the way to the edge of the page and you can start right here and go all the way to the edge of the page. In rings, you do have to, if you're writing on the left side of the page, depending on how you write, and it is going to start to get difficult when you hit those rings. And also depends on how you fill the rings. I sometimes, depending on the size of the insert or the size of the lines on the insert, will have to pull it out, finish writing, and then pop it back in. That's fine for me, but if that annoys you, especially if you're in like outside of your house, for example, that could get annoying because maybe like you have to get up all of a sudden because you're doing a doctor's appointment and the paper falls out and then you lose it. Like, totally get that. Okay, I'm just reading this through. I would say that the TN system over the ring system is more simple. Yes, simpler. There are 4 strings in this TN, and of course you can jump band. But that leads naturally to 4 natural sections, divided by like an insert that's on a string. So I've got 4 notebooks in this cover. I have a calendar, I have a habit tracker, I have my bullet journal insert, and I have a long-term collections or reference insert. That's 4 places for information. In here, I think I have 6 side tabs, I believe. Yep, through 6. And then I have plenty of bottom and top tabs. So you can make this as complicated as you want. And also the fact that like you're starting from scratch within these rings, like it feels overwhelming, right? It did for me. I told myself I would never, ever, ever be in a ring planner because that's just so overwhelming. So like I couldn't DIY my own planner like that. Like I need some form of pre-made structure. So this is definitely simpler. I would say for me, this system is also cheaper. So because it's simpler, there's less that I can do with it. It's harder to buy things for it, in my opinion, as I mentioned earlier. So I spend less time thinking about buying things for it because I know that it's hard to do so. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to find a dashboard, like a rings dashboard that's just a sheet of paper, that's easily like put inable. It's not easily insertable in a ring system, so maybe I won't even consider it. The only money that I spend yearly, like reoccurring yearly, that I have to spend for this system now is like the bullet journal insert. I already have the monthly, it's undated. I already have the habit tracker, it's undated. And then this reference insert stays long term. Like this is my things that I need all the time, like my reference section in the back of this planner. Like they hold the same information. So the only like money that I have to spend is this bullet journal insert. And it's Tomoe River paper. It's from Paper Penguin Co. So, which is a small shop in the United States. So is it like a relatively big chunk of change to buy 4 notebooks for a year in one fell swoop if you don't do a sale? Sure, 100%. And then I would also have to consider like the paper that I use to create the monthly calendar and the habit tracker and like the printer ink if you wanted to get really nitty gritty with it. But I feel like I spend more on this system because I'm like, oh, that's really cute. I bought lace to add to like some acetate that I bought, and also these pockets. And I also buy more inserts because maybe I want to switch out my weekly or my dailies or, stuff like that. Or I want to switch out my dividers because I feel like I want new dividers or something. It's easier to DIY all that stuff. I want like 100% agree. But it's also easier to buy it. And sometimes if I am complacent in convenience over saving money, it's easier to spend a lot of money on this system, I feel like. Yeah. So if I want to go with like a cheaper, spending less time setting up in a month, like this takes so much less time to set up in a month. I make sure all of my monthly events are there, which they generally are, and I put in what my habits are going to be for the month. I turn the page in my bullet journal insert and I just start. Like it takes 5 minutes to set up a month here. If I haven't done the proper preparation in like printing and cutting inserts all in one fell swoop for the year, this can take up to 45 minutes to an hour to an hour and a half if I sit down and do nothing else and set up the month in here. I have significantly decreased it from what it was at the beginning of this year. I'm not decorating as much. I've taken out a lot of my tracker inserts. Like I definitely have like a maximalist ring planner system. And I'm trying to like simplify, of course, but printing and cutting all the dailies, all the weeklies that you need, if that's what you use, that is what I use. Stuff like that. It all takes time and energy. And then you have to make sure your monthly is set up. You have to make sure you've collected all your information for the month from the various places where you could put it, depending on how complicated your system is. It takes me a lot longer to set up the month for this system. So generally, when I'm setting up one or the other, rings, if I'm going to set up rings, it has to be the weekend before the month starts. So for example, this is the last weekend in October that I'm recording this. If it doesn't get recorded, up on YouTube soon, time is a construct. We're still unpacking. But it takes me, like, I have to do this the weekend before because I don't have energy or time in the week to take an hour and a half on a weeknight after work and cooking and doing everything else that is called life. I don't have time to then set this up. Here, if it takes me like half an hour tops, I don't even think it takes me half an hour to set this up for the month. I can do that at 8 o'clock at night after everything is done if I still have the energy. While my husband and I are like watching something or he's like reading and we're just chilling out next to each other. I can do this. Also, because this is less complicated, there are less places to put information and therefore less places to lose information. So for example, if I was going to put an event that was coming up, I have three places it could go. It could go as a note in my daily pages, because bullet journal style. It could go directly on my monthly, because I date all of my months all the way through, except for like the 2025 ones in this system. And it could be here on this like upcoming events sticky note from Peanuts Planner Co. Those are the three places where it could be. And I reference, that's where, in the monthly planners where it's supposed to be. I see this often enough. And I check this when I'm setting up my monthly. So I know that'll get moved over. And my routine for this is that I check my dailies every week. So if I put it in my dailies, it will not get missed. It might wait until the end of the week to get to where it's supposed to be, but I won't miss it here. That's not necessarily the case with my ring system. On my ring system, it could go anywhere. For example, I have a little like inbox section here at the front because I've got lots of sticky notes. I do have that event sticky note here. As you can see, it's got stuff on it and filled out. Or it could go on my monthly, or it could go on my daily. Or I could have randomly put it somewhere else accidentally, because like I have a notes section and I have a list section, and though it probably wouldn't have go any of those places, but there are just more places for it to go because I have more division. And I could think, oh, this would make sense to go here. You know, like it's a problem that I cause myself. So I'm not saying this is would be a problem for anybody else if they switched into a ring system. I'm saying it's an issue with the way that I like to set things up. So it's just something I have to consider. So this is overall simpler, lighter weight. Like if I just want a low energy but still functional system that I don't have to like draw monthlies out like a bullet journal style, I would pick this. However, this sometimes it feels that it's too rigid and too precious. So there's only 4 places where information can be organized. And if something doesn't feel like it falls within those 4 places, even though it's just paper, sometimes I like lock in and go, I can't put this piece of information down or this idea down because I don't have a place for it. I know that's a mental block of mine. But the one thing that I do love about, one of the things that I love about rings is you have so much freedom. You can add a sheet of paper or add a section that's just for notes, and then anything random can go here. You can add an inbox section and anything can go there. It's harder to add a notes section or an inbox section into a TN. I've done it before, but it's harder to do and it's more complicated. And at the same time, like there's not enough sections. So sometimes if you do mesh things, if I do get over that there's no place for this and I put a notes page in with my dailies, it doesn't feel like there's enough division. It feels like, oh, okay, I put a fall bucket list in the middle of September, right in between my daily pages. Well, now it feels like my daily pages are not, like they're not flowing, you know, like I could pop that into like a note section. Again, maybe something silly, but if I'm trying to find stuff, it makes it a little bit more difficult in its own way. I will say that it's easier to archive notebooks than it is to archive individual sheets of paper. That is definitely true. I can just, as long as I date the notebook, like the front of the notebook, to make sure what the time range was, it can just slot on the shelf chronologically with all of my other notebooks. For my ring system, and I feel like a lot of people feel this, it's really overwhelming to think about archive systems. I feel like a lot of ring planner people within the last year have discussed their own archive systems enough that like there's a lot of really good ideas out there. I haven't shared mine personally, mostly because it's like a mimicry or a copycat of a lot of other really great people. And now because they're all in boxes and I actually have no idea where they are. But I am like, I do need to buy something to make my archive system work every year, right? Like I use binders. And while if you have shelf space, you can just slide this on. I have to spend more money on like $12, I think, is what I spend yearly on archive stuff. However, that's money that I have to spend on keeping organized my information in a chronological order that feels right to me. I do know other wonderful planner people that are perfectly comfortable just throwing their inserts into a box and being like, this is fine. I can find what I need if I need it. And maybe that box is labeled by year. That's phenomenal. And I highly respect them for it. That is not like, I feel like I need a bit more sense of control. So that's not what I do. But like, regardless, I'm getting off into the weeds just a little bit. It takes a really long time. Or not, it doesn't take a really long time. It takes a lot of effort to think about archiving rings. Like even to the point where I still have this in my ring system from last year or the beginning of this year is like, what am I putting where? Like I have all of my sections listed out and I'm like, what am I putting where? Right? Because not all of what I use in a year is even going to fit into the archive binder that I use if I want just one binder for a year. So do I want like a division system? Like what do I want? And I had to really think about this. And like, this is just a notebook. Like you put it on the shelf when the notebook is full, whatever is in the notebook. So that's definitely a consideration. And I came up with an archive system that I liked because I felt at the time that rings was worth it. And that archive system still works for me now that I'm back in rings, but it might be a huge hurdle for somebody else, and I totally respect that. Okay, so another thing that this I think is a downside of this one is if you don't have a specific insert with pre-drawn, pre-printed spreads that you need, for example, you have to draw them yourself or you have to organize your information yourself. I'm specifically thinking about like things like mood trackers or like habit trackers. So if you didn't have like a habit log or a habit tracker that you really liked as an insert, you'd have to find a way to draw it yourself. And for rings, there are 50 bajillion habit trackers out there in the planner community, either on Etsy or in individual shops or whatever. If there's a way you like organizing your weekly information, for example, and the inserts that are options in the TN world don't suit your style, you have to draw them out or you have to make them yourself. And in the ring system, you can find just about anything. And if you can't, it's a lot easier to make it yourself. I find that's a really big plus for this because something that I didn't really realize that I liked was just like, if I wanted to organize my information, let's see, what can I go to? Let me show you, like, okay, vehicle information. I reprinted this. Vehicle information. Great. There's a whole insert for vehicle information. It's like, I have to fill it out. That's it. I don't have to think about how I'm going to organize my information. I just have to decide where it goes and fill it in. Vehicle information in here is on a dot grid, like blank notebook, and I have to think about how I'm going to organize it. I could just look up a rings insert and like mimic the spacing or the organization of the way that is. I could buy it and then print it out and cut it and like paste it into my planner. But it's just a lot easier, I feel like, to organize information on the page in a ring system, because there's so much out there that people have already thought of. As I said, it's sometimes hard to buy stuff for some of these sizes. So yeah, I don't actually have a really good example, but like Kahir size, and maybe I pronounced that wrong, but that was like the Moleskine Kahir notebooks, I believe. It's also A5 Slim, so it's right between standard and A5 size. Where are you gonna find stuff that's Kahir or A5 Slim size? I don't know. Like, I know that there are some people that make covers for that, and you can definitely get like an ultra custom one that's going to cost more money, but I feel like it's more difficult sometimes to buy stuff for this system. And then I think the last thing that's a downside for the TN that I do take into consideration is once a notebook is full, all of the information that's in that notebook has to get archived on the shelf. Like, once a notebook is full, you have to start a new notebook. So if there's any information from a notebook that you want, you have to physically transfer it every single time that you move notebooks. Amanda at Ink Imperfections, who's the basis of this whole system, as I said in my last video, she worked with that a little bit by creating her collection/reference insert, which was things that she needs for more than like 3 to 4 months. She keeps in this notebook because that's about as often as she would switch through like the daily bullet journal insert, and she didn't want to keep rewriting passwords, health information, doctors' contacts, like hours of stores that are around her. Stuff like that. But if there's like a project that I'm working on, let's say, and I decided that, oh, maybe it'll take me only 3 months to work on this project, but I'm not done with the project by the time this insert is full, well, then I have to rewrite all of this information for the project in my new notebook. And so switching notebooks takes a really long time. So the time that you would take to set up monthly a ring planner, let's say it takes me 45 minutes. Let's say it takes me an hour, because that's a really nice round number and I don't like doing math, says the engineer. I don't like doing math. So let's say it takes me an hour every month to set up this planner. And let's say it takes it, on average, I fill out this notebook every 4 months. I would say, very realistically, it would take me 4 hours to transfer the information that I want to from the previous notebook to this one. I think that's a very reasonable estimate. I don't need very much startup time to start a new notebook, but because like I start chronologically, start with the week overview and move forward. But in the back, again, this is Ink Imperfection system, so it's not mine. She's got her short-term lists that she'll only need 3 to 4 months of the year. It could take me up to 4 hours, I would say, every beginning of a notebook, to have this set up properly. I'm not certain that I would take 4 hours at once every 4 months over an hour every month. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it could be the same amount of time, it's just distributed differently. And like 4 hours is a good chunk of change. You don't have to do it 4 hours like nonstop, but also every time you stop, it's harder and harder to continue. So there have been times that I just, out of exhaustion, don't finish transferring information that I think that I'm gonna need. And then I need it and I'm out. And it's like bitten me in the behind. Meanwhile here, like I still have my archive system thoughts from like December or November of last year. I kept them here because I'm like, I'm gonna revisit this for this year. right? Like it's almost November and I'm going to purchase my archive binder here in a few days. And I'm glad that it's here. You know, I'm glad that I kept it. Like when I was emptying parts of my planner, I decided to keep that. And I can because like it doesn't affect any other part of my planner, you know? And I think the last thing, there's a couple more things that I take into consideration when transferring or sticking with rings or picking rings over TN, and some of the reasons that I switched. There's a lot of freebie options because I feel like it's easier to DIY stuff or make stuff. I feel like a lot more people are willing to give freebies or make freebies in this system or in a rings system because they're easier to make. And this is my mindset. If something takes me a long time to make or it's really complicated, if I want to share it with other people, I am more inclined to ask for payment because of how much time it took me and how much energy it took me. And if it's something that took me less time, I'm not going to say it's necessarily simpler, but took me less time and less thought to make, I personally would be more inclined to make it free. And I have found a lot more freebies in the ring community, the ring part of the planner community, than in the TN, than I ever found on the TN side. So that's a really big plus. If you're just starting out either system, you're going to be able to start with a lot more freebies in this system. I feel personally that this is more functional. I feel like I can take up more space because it's less precious. If I don't like something, I can just remove it and it wasn't even there, you know? If it feels like a waste of space, I can just take it out and I can either archive it in a notes section or I can pitch it. And it doesn't have to be at month end or at notebook end. It can be every week. It could be today. If I decide that I'm done with this particular note after I'm done with this video, boom, I can pitch it. I'm done. So it makes me feel like I can be more creative because I can get stuff out of my head easier. It's more functional. I feel like I can be messier. I have a lot of decorations and I am really neat in parts, but like my daily pages do not look like this. Like my daily pages are a lot neater than my notes section. My notes section is just my notes section. And also I'm able to change it up more. So I'm going through a lot of life changes right now, as I think anyone could expect. So I used, in the last video I talked about the weeklies that I was using, and then I switched up my dailies. Right after I filmed that video, I went back to the Midori Hibino dailies that I was using at the beginning of the year with no consequences because I could just start them in the beginning or in the middle of October. Or I think I started them at the beginning of October. I do think that I waited until the month was finished. I'm not sure. I'm not certain. I actually don't remember. And actually, it doesn't matter. I feel like I can make changes faster, easier in this notebook. And then for November, I'm going to switch my dailies again because I feel like I'm being too precious about my dailies. They're beautiful, but the Midori Hibino, I feel like I need to be able to just brain dump like my note section in my dailies right now because I have less time to sit down and just play. I need it to be more functional. And great, okay, November comes. I don't have to like switch out a notebook to do that. I can just switch out my dailies. I'm also switching out my weeklies for November as well. And I can just do that. And that's a sense of freedom that I don't feel like I have in the TN system. And I think I talked about this, but the last thing is like, this is way more customizable. I'm going to make a grand sweeping statement. And again, this is only my opinion, so don't listen to me if you don't agree with me. But I feel like there's only so many ways that you can set up a TN. Because you have 4 strings And like if you look at other people and other people's TN systems, you're going to find a lot of similarities. And that's great because like you basically need like a place for dailies, maybe a place for weeklies, maybe, and like a note section or a project section. And that's about it, right? Like maybe you have like a watercolor notebook in there too, or like a different hobby notebook in there too. But I feel like there's only so many ways that you can organize your information here, order and like stuff. And I feel like these are like ring planners are so much more customizable and so much more fitting of your needs, my needs, like the proverbial you, that I find I will be in this system longer now that I've started into the ring community, because I know what I like. I know where information needs to be for me to see it. And I can add information that's like unique to me that maybe like so-and-so next to me on Instagram doesn't need. But we both maybe have the same size and even maybe the same cover. But like their system is going to look completely different from mine, even though maybe we all have monthly, weekly, dailies in a note section and a reference section. Like they're going to be in different, I don't know. I feel like you can make this more yours. And I think that there's something really wonderful about just customizing your planner to you. That does come with a lot of stress, as I said. Like there's a lot of overwhelm that comes with starting a ring system. I absolutely understand. I absolutely feel it. But once you get over that hump, I feel like it's a lot more sustainable because it's whatever you make it, if that makes sense. And for me, that's a really big deal. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I think I would and do go to TN when I just need the very basics, monthly and daily, basically, and a place to make sure that I'm brushing my teeth every day because I can't remember, like a habit tracker. And if that's all I need, and like my doctor's information, if that's all I need, great. That's awesome. But as soon as I need something more, this system starts to fracture just a little bit for me, especially knowing how well more works in a ring system. So if I need like a moving section or a house projects section, and those things are going to take more time than the space that I have in here, well, then I'm automatically going to move back to rings. Do you know what I mean? So I think there's pros and cons to both systems, as I've mentioned, but those are the things that I take into consideration when I decide to flip between the two. I'm not a very logical planner hopper. Like, I try to be. Like, if there's something wrong with my system, I very much try to like sit down and think about it. Like, what about this system that I'm currently in isn't working? That doesn't always work. That doesn't always happen for me. I feel like a lot of people think I'm a lot more logical than sometimes I am. Sometimes I just have a gut instinct of rings isn't working anymore. I need to go back to TN. And then if that's what I've been feeling, I try to wait at least a day, right? I try to sleep on it. And if I can wait 3 days or until the weekend, till like the rush of the week is over, I try, but sometimes it doesn't work. I'll just hop if I get the urge. Like, generally, discontent with my planner, like discontent with your planner is going to hit. Like, I think that's just a part of being in a planner, is like the dopamine is going to wear off. The dopamine is absolutely going to wear off. Sometimes the dopamine wears off and there's a problem with this system and this other system is going to fix it. And sometimes the dopamine just wears off and I have no answers. So depending on which of those situations there are, I might sit and logically think about switching, or I might just switch. Yeah. So I don't know how much pro and conning goes into like choosing one or the other. I knew this one wasn't working for me because I needed to start thinking about moving. And I knew I didn't have a good way to organize what I needed to, what I felt like I wanted to in this planner. And I was like, but the page size is great. The page size is perfect. I don't want to go to pocket rings again. I need space to stretch out. And oh, look, like my A6 is still set up and on my desk. I'm just going to move back into that. And that's pretty much like all of the thought process that went into that. And I'm pretty sure I didn't even like sleep on it. I think I was just like, I'm doing this. But those are kind of like the internal things that I don't necessarily think about, but feel if I'm deciding between one of these two, all of those pros and cons lists. I didn't finish all of my cons of my rings. So I tried to put cons in red and pros in like the black ink. And you can just see that if you'd like. But I figured like they're basically opposites. Like the pro of this is a con of that. So you can read the pros of this and understand like the cons without me finishing my notes page. But yeah, that's pretty much that. And then if I'm going to move sizes within rings or TN, that's basically do I love everything about this except the page size and or the weight? Yes. Okay, now I need to think about a new size. Yeah, that's that. I hope that was helpful. I hope that helps you think about one or the other. If you're considering the one or the other for the first time, I hope that's helpful. Yeah, I do love my ring system. I do love TN, but I think I'm a ring girly at heart now that I've been in ring systems almost exclusively for over a year. I think this switch to A6TN for part of August and part of September, so I think it was like a month that I was in this system, was my only breakaway from rings since April of 2023. So a year and a half. And I think rings is just going to be where I am long term. And also, if I wanted this to weigh less, I could take my rings out and put smaller rings in and just carry less. But I love how much I can carry in this. Makes me feel safe mentally. Okay, that's it for rings versus TN. So if that's what you're here for, which I hope that's what you're here for, awesome. You can go ahead and like chill out. I will have another video coming soon. I have a lot of ideas. Plan for like a gentle, this is what I'm changing in my planner for November video. It might come out mid-November. Like, I don't know. Like this, it might be November before you're seeing this video. It might be mid-November before you see that video. But I do plan on recording these are my new weeklies, these are my new dailies video soon. So look out for that. If you want to stick around, I'm just going to show you a couple more of the JCreatives items that I have just to like promote her shop. She just came out with this tote bag. It's really awesome. It's completely reversible, I believe. Lots of pockets on the outside. Lots of pockets, and I already got it dirty. Oh my goodness. She has a cream version and a black version. And while a lot more of her ring and TN inserts, she's got a lot more cloth options for like her zip pouches and those. The tote bag only comes with 2 options. Like, you can get the cream one with 1 type of interior, or you can get the black one with 1 type of interior. And it's got a really, like, it's got 2 handles, and it's great. It's got a lot of pockets on the inside, and it's really, like, it's wonderful. I love it to bits. Yeah, I just haven't gotten all my planner stuff out to put stuff in it. And then another thing that she makes that I love is what she calls the Essentials pouch, which is basically, I would say, a little bit larger than a medium Delphonics pouch. And it's got pockets on the outside and then 1 big pocket on the inside. And just in comparison, that's my TN and this is my A6. So, like, you can see how big that is. And it fits in here pretty perfectly, as you can see. And there's plenty of space. Like, even if you filled this, there's plenty of space around it for more stuff. So this is her Essentials pouch. This is her tote. This is called the mini pouch, I believe. And this is not available yet. So I can't post this video until she gives me permission. Or, yeah, she I can't post this video without her permission yet. This is a prototype that I am testing for her. It doesn't have a name yet, but it's slightly larger than the mini, and it's still vertical, while the Essentials is much larger than it and horizontal. If she gives me permission, when she gives me permission to post this video, I also will say this. So she has specific patterns that you can use. So, for example, before she made me the Essentials pouch, I bought this Essentials pouch that is full from packing. I have a lot of, like, A6 inserts and stickers in here, and some markers and what have you. She does give you keychains with each order. This is called Gilmore. It's from her fall release. So she makes, what am I trying to say? She makes, like, sets. So you can't necessarily say, I want this pattern with, like, this color. You'll just get, like, Gilmore is something. She has the Katie. She has something called Evergreen. She's got, like, something called Floral Ghosty for the fall, which I think is pretty much gone. All of that. This one is called the Michaela. And she will put it in her shop eventually. I think it's going to be like a new year, like January, February release. And hopefully she gives me permission to say that by the time that I post this video. If not, then you will not hear this because I will have cut it out. But yeah, let me know if you have any questions about anything to do with rings versus TN. I'm happy to answer questions about Jenna's shop as well. But I don't know her shop best. She does. So it would be really good if you interacted with her on Instagram, because that's where she updates everyone about the shop. But yeah. Yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions about anything. And if not, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.